What's up, y'all? Back again today with a very special video. So today I wanted to talk to you quickly about my personal view on how I think we can cure racism. Now, obviously this is multi-layered, but I just want to say quickly a few ways or steps that we can take as rational adults to conquer the stigmas surrounding this racism issue. Now, if you notice, I made quite a few videos regarding things that have to do with race, and I wanted to kind of speak about this quickly. Now, I've had a few comments tell me, oh, your channel is nothing but race baiting, and you're nothing but a racist, and you're nothing but a black supremacist, and you're nothing but this and that, when coincidentally they haven't watched all the content on my channel. Now, I have multiple videos that have nothing to do with race at all. I have videos that have to do with psychology, spirituality, nature, organized religion, and my perspective on that. Just multiple different things. Why I love YouTube. Multiple different topics that I speak about on YouTube that I don't necessarily even bring race at all into it. And as a matter of fact, the first few videos on my channel, I wasn't even talking about race. And it wasn't really until somebody made a comment that I'm going to read to you right now that really kind of resonated with me and made me want to elaborate further. So this is the comment that someone left for me.
No offense, but there are not enough black guys with the mindset you have. I don't have many black friends because I have always been screwed over in the past. I would really like to smoke a J with you though, man. You are very cool. Keep up these videos because YouTube needs more like you. I have subscribed.
So, reading that comment when I was early on in the stages of starting my channel, it really resonated with me. I mean, the gentleman said, you know, he was very honest with me. He was not black, and he told me, hey man, you seem like a cool dude. He said, if I met more black people that share your thoughts or your perspective or your mannerisms or whatever be it, then I might feel more comfortable having more black friends. But in the instances that I've had black people that I reached my hand out to, they may have done me wrong, so it led me to not have many or any black friends at all. So I was very humbled and I was appreciative for his honesty in saying that. I mean, let's be honest, he didn't have to say that, but he took his time to say that he appreciated me for the person that I was and that he would be comfortable being my friend. Now, obviously I may never meet this person, but it gave me the inspiration, or it further encouraged me and inspired me to show my real personality and my real experiences on camera and broadcast that to potentially anyone in the world. These are the certain things that, because this is me, the person that you're seeing right now, I'm a little bit more formal, obviously, because I'm addressing potentially millions of people at a different time. So I'm not going to just be speaking or presenting myself in an unfavorable fashion. It's the same way you wouldn't go to a job interview and speak how you speak around your friends. Now, but even around my friends, my close associates and my friends will tell you, the person that you see in front of this camera, this is me. So I say all that to say, when the gentleman who wasn't black saw me and said, hey, you're a cool black dude, you know, it resonated with me because I said in my mind, well, thanks. But I want you to see, as a non-black person, that there are more black people who are not necessarily just like me, but who are what you may consider cool, or who may share a number of the same likes that you have, who may share a number of the same aspirations, the same dreams and goals, who may have the same sense of humor as you. But see, that's the thing about our society, and that's the thing about racism, is that many people, innocent people, get caught in the crosshairs. And this is who I'm making my channels for. I'm not making my channel for the white supremacists, although I welcome you to a debate. I've welcomed many of you to debates, and for some reason you don't show your face. On a side note, it's a weird thing how so many people who comment on my videos don't show their face. For instance, look at this guy's comment. This guy says, fucking filthy, stinking, ugly, watermelon-eating, fat-lipped, wide-nosed, kinky-headed, thick-skulled, wild, half-fed jungle nigger. This is what somebody commented to me on my video about waking up from your sleep and being into consciousness. Now, I didn't say anything derogatory in that video to insult him or to trigger him. However, this is what he chose to comment. Now, this isn't the first comment I've gotten like this, but you have to understand, as a person who's telling me that my videos are only about race baiting and I'm only a black supremacist and I should just get over it and there's no such thing as racism, I need you to see that there are people who say things like this to me online, and they don't go that far in person, obviously, because it would be a different scenario. But there are people who definitely have to, if they say that online, do you not think that there are people in the society who feel like that in their mind when they're walking around and see me or see someone who fits my description? Now you got to think, that might not be a big deal if the person just works at Target and he's just a bag boy. But what if the person who's calling me a fucking filthy, stinking, ugly, watermelon-eating, fat-lipped, wide-nosed, kinky-headed, thick-skulled, wild, half-fed jungle nigger, what if the person that's calling me that, what if he's a judge? A 70-year-old judge who's been talking like that since 1945. I mean, let's be honest. There are people in high-ranking positions and powerful positions of authority who feel like that commenter feels. And what you need to understand is that I'm not necessarily even at the phase where I'm upset anymore at those insults, because when I commented back to the gentleman who commented that to me, I left him a lengthy paragraph on every single insult he told me, and then he deleted his whole comment because I guess he had nothing else to say. But see, that's what I want to tell people who are being oppressed. It's multi-layered, because I don't want to just talk only to black people. I don't want it to be a thing where I make it seem like I only have the interests of black people. But if in my instance, it is black people who are being oppressed, and not saying that only black people are being oppressed, but black people are particularly being oppressed in a number of ways, okay? So if I'm speaking to them, you can't be mad at me. Again, I am just speaking to a demographic of people who have been oppressed, suppressed, and depressed, okay? Now, back to the subject at hand. When we're talking about the issues that can cure racism, we have to talk about talking about it. We have to talk about it, because far too often it's, oh, I didn't have any slaves. Or, oh, that was 100 some odd years ago. Oh, you weren't a slave, so why are you complaining? These are some of the most common rebuttals given when someone like myself brings up racial issues. If we're ever going to have a honest and efficient debate about race or racism or progression or true integration, then we need to have a true discussion. We can't just continue to act like we want inclusion, act like we want equality, and act like we want everyone to be fine, but then when we bring up true instances in the past that have trickled down to us and have directly affected us, and when we talk about instances that are currently happening to oppress us, you shoo us off and tell us to get over it, and then you display signs of cognitive dissonance because you cannot present facts to dispute our claims, okay? So now, this is why I say we have to talk about it. People get uncomfortable. But for instance, I made a documentary about the current portrayal of Jesus Christ. And I asked the question, why, if anyone could answer, is Jesus commonly portrayed as a Caucasian male when there is no indicator in the Bible that describes him as a Caucasian male? And the only indicator that we ever had of the description of this man that they call Jesus is in the Bible. So if in the Bible it does not say he's a Caucasian man, why is he painted Caucasian? So now this is a question that seems so simple to answer, but I had to make a whole documentary, and I had to get 12, 13, 14 different answers as to why, and no one could give me a solid answer. Or a few people could give me a solid answer, but a lot of people who are in denial are the same people who tell me just get over it. They can't even answer me that simple question. Maybe you could answer it. Why is Jesus painted one particular way? And you cannot tell me it doesn't matter, because that's not what I asked you. I asked you, why is he painted one particular way? And if you don't know what I mean, if you research Mel Gibson's movie that made over $100 million called The Passion of Christ, he was a Caucasian man in that movie. Now, why is this? And do you honestly think that this has no consequence? But that's another topic. The real interesting part of the whole documentary that I made, which was called In Jesus' Name, was that not only did I ask the question, why is Jesus always painted white, but then I showed a picture of a black man in the same garb, in the same facial structure, in the same hair as this white Jesus, and many people said, we don't know who this black man is. So now this furthers the question that we have to talk about. If we really want to cure racism, I need Richard Spencer, the alt-right leader. Maybe you can tell me, why is Jesus only painted one way? If in the Bible it never described him as being a Caucasian man. Okay? Answer me that question. Or furthermore, answer me this question. Look at this picture right now. You see this picture? Tell me why that little girl is smiling. Tell me why she's smiling. Tell me why it was okay at one point in time in America in the 1900s, okay, for white men, women, and children to gather around black dead bodies that were burned and mutilated and stand there and smile in front of everyone in the middle of the street. Why was that legal? Why were the children gathered around to take pictures in memorial? Okay? These are real questions that I need answered before I ever stop talking about racism. So if anybody ever tells me you're only talking about racism, you know what? I'll make 10 racist, not racist videos, but videos about racism for every person who tells me to stop talking about racism. That's the new rule. If you tell me to stop talking about racism, I'm going to bring 10 things out of the bag that are racist, and I need you to explain them to me, because that's the point I'm at right now. I'm at the point where I'm not going to be quiet. I'm going to continue to speak about injustice as it pertains to the indigenous peoples of this land, the indigenous peoples of Africa, and all around the world that have been oppressed by one particular set of people in particular. Now, this of course is not to say that everybody white is bad. This is something that is so redundant that I have to constantly say, but I have to constantly reaffirm and tell everyone that it's not about black and white per se. It's never been about black and white. That's the whole ironic twist to this whole plot, is that it's never been about black and white. It's always been about righteousness and unrighteousness, okay? So this is why you may see one of my videos where I made called Are All White People the Devil? Where I had a discussion with 2 other gentlemen, one of them considering himself to be a Hebrew Israelite, and he was basically coming from the position telling me that every single white person that breathes a breath is evil. And I had to tell him no. I had to tell him, or at least from my position, that I disagree with him sternly, because that's the whole thing. Explain to me how God made a people, unless you're telling me that God didn't make these people, in which you have to provide me contextual, actual evidence to show me that these people come from some kind of extraterrestrial realm, which I'm not discounting, but unless you can show me that white people come from literally not from this realm and they are not created in the same way we are created, then you're telling me that God created them. Now, we can say that we created on different days. We were created with different abilities. Though that is not the conversation. My conversation would be to anyone saying that all white people are the devil. Are you telling me that God would make anything that he would have to ban, that he would have to damn? Would God make anything knowing that it had no salvation? This is not the Most High's word that I've learned. So now this is where I had to come into slight disagreement with the Hebrew Israelite gentleman, although I agree with many of the teachings of Hebrew Israelites. But any Hebrew Israelite that says that white people are without redemption is false. Now, this is where I have to say that there are a number of things that a white person, in my opinion, should do if he really wants to cure racism. If he really wants to say, okay, let's be equal. I really am sorry for the atrocities that happened to you, which very well could have happened from my direct descendants. I very well may be benefiting in some way, shape, form, or another from racism. So for that, I should not point my finger at you and feel better than you because we have not had the same plight. If you're willing to say that, then I applaud you. And now you may be saying, how could I benefit today from slavery? Let me give you an example of how a modern day person could be benefiting directly from slavery. And this, of course, is a hypothetical example. So any product I say or any event that I use is a hypothetical position, but you will get my analogy. Imagine Heinz, the great ketchup company. Heinz, we all know Heinz. We all get Heinz ketchup for our French fries. We could imagine that Heinz has for sure made millions of dollars and maybe has even grossed into the billions over the years. However, now this is hypothetical, of course, because this is not a fact to my knowledge, but if a gentleman, say his name was Thomas Heinz, and he was the one who created Heinz ketchup, but he was a slave master, or his father was a slave master who benefited directly from the sale and exchange and work of slaves that he did not pay, if this Thomas Heinz starts a company, a ketchup company, with the money that he received from slavery, then that company is built literally on the blood and the sacrifice of slaves that have not been repaid. So now this Thomas Heinz, whenever he started his company hundreds of years ago, will inevitably pass this company down to his child, who may be Jason Heinz. And Jason Heinz will take that company and the ideals and all the resources and all the networking that he's gained, again, from the back of slavery, because now he's transitioned into ketchup. Now, again, this is a hypothetical story, so stick with me. But he's moved from being a slave master to now the company has used that money to transition into selling ketchup. But if you know anything about money laundering, this is a similar activity. You use the money or the resources that you gain from illegal activity or unmoral activity, and then you use that to fund a separate corporation that can now legitimately get you money. So now, hypothetically speaking, of course, Heinz ketchup is doing well on its own. And the great-great-grandchildren of Thomas Heinz, the slave master, have never owned a slave personally. They may not even be racist, but knowingly or unknowingly, the great-great-great-grandchildren of this Thomas Heinz, who created this Heinz ketchup, would be benefiting modern day from the oppression and the suffering and the blood of black men and women in America. And how dare one of the Heinz children say in this hypothetical scenario, that Negro should get a job, or that Negro had the same opportunities that I had. So do you see how there is just completely hypocritical, high amounts of I'm so baffled. I'm sorry. This is one of the few times that I'm baffled, because when you really think about it, it's so hypocritical that it's definitely frustrating. And this is why a lot of people are in the streets, Black Power. They're frustrated. They don't hate you. Even the ones who say they want white slaves. There are people who say, you know what, I want white people to go in slavery like we went into slavery. And to which, hey, I am not even going to tackle that subject, because that's a whole nother subject. If you feel that way, you feel that way. I don't feel that way. But on a side note, even that person who's saying that is because he's frustrated. And me, I sometimes get frustrated. But this video isn't out of frustration, because we have to move past frustration, and then we have to talk about progression. We have to talk about, again, righteousness. Because let's talk about also the children, because there was a time where I told that Hebrew Israelite man, well, look, not only did God create white people in some form or fashion, but what about the children? Because I've seen a one-year-old child, blonde hair, blue eyes, look at me and smile and laugh and giggle and dance, and we had our own little connection. Even if it be for that 3 seconds, me and this white child had a connection. And I don't see how God would put a devil, a little baby devil on this earth like that. That's not how the Most High works, man. Let's stop the foolishness. The Most High does not make baby devils, okay? What happens is children are born and they are taught and indoctrinated with ideologies that are skewed and tainted with falsehoods, misrepresentations, and outright blatant, just hypocritical nonsense. And then they pass that down like any other tradition to their children and to their children and to their children. And they're constantly passing down now this ideology of what we call white supremacy. You understand? So it's not the fact that this child was born out of the womb and automatically he's a devil and he knows to conquer and kill, rape and pillage, destroy and deceive. That is not the case. Let's just be honest. Let's be honest. The honest truth is they are indoctrinated with the ideologies associated with quote-unquote white supremacy. And as they get into positions of power that their parents gave them, they also, in many times, spew the same nonsense that their parents taught them. So what we are destroying is white supremacy. You get it? We're not destroying white people. First of all, that is... So on to the next subject, because again, usually I'm not at too many loss for words, but sometimes when I talk about these things for long enough, because I've stepped back and I've reevaluated from more positions than not. Another thing I want to talk about is people say, oh, well, you never make videos talking about black people. You don't make videos talking about what black people do. Well, that's a lie, and that shows that you haven't watched my content, which means, hey, you don't need to watch all my content, but you can't come and tell me what I do and I don't do if you haven't researched for yourself. Because if you go on my channel, I have a number of videos, particularly one of the first videos I made addressing just black people was called Fuck the Race War. I made a video where I dropped tears before I started recording, because I had seen some ridiculousness that black people were out in these streets doing, and I felt like they were letting themselves down and letting me down and letting all of us down. So I made a video only to black people, telling those black people and any black people that do something despicable like that, that they are outright disgusting. You could go watch that video. That was maybe 6 months ago. So while people are saying I don't make videos about black people doing bad things, no, what's happening is you're only looking at it from one lens. You need to step out of that mind frame. You're looking at this thing from one lens, and you don't truly want progression. You just want to point out what the black man has done wrong. And on the reverse side, the black man wants to point out what the white man has done wrong. No, like I said, if we want to cure racism, what we do is we have an honest discussion, right? We take accountability first. Accountability before you even ask for anything. Before you even say anything, you take accountability for what you've done. Where are the... Okay, if the racism isn't a thing anymore, show me one person who says, yes, I'm racist, who isn't a KKK member or something. Show me some person, a normal citizen who may be 60 or 70, who lived during the time of segregation, who can honestly say, yeah, I've never done anything racist. I've never Come on, let's be honest. We know there are racist people in our society, and it's hypocritical and it's disrespectful, it's belittling, it's condescending, it's patronizing to try to tell me or any other black person in 2017 that we should get over it, especially when September 11, 2001 happened and you told us to never forget. The slogan associated with 9/11 is never, ever, ever forget. Never forget, quote unquote, never forget 9/11. Why? Because a tragedy happened, rightfully so. We should never forget that a tragedy happened to a group of people. So when I say, what about slavery? What about Jim Crow laws? What about lynching? They say, forget about that. So no, I'm going to keep talking about it because you're showing me you're my enemy if you want me to remember September 11th, but you don't want me to remember the atrocities that happened 10 times worse than September 11th for 400 times the amount of September 11th happened. September 11th, not discounting anything that happened, but the number of people that died at September 11th and the amount of time that the tragedy occurred for September 11th, which was probably maybe 3-4 hours. That time frame, in comparison to the time frame of oppression of black people, is so minuscule that you might as well not even mention September 11th when I'm talking about racism, to be honest. But I'll let you mention it. And sure, I'll never forget it. But don't you dare come out of your mouth and tell me to forget black oppression, black segregation, black hatred, black envy. Okay, don't do that. And then please, because I would never also say forget the Holocaust. I would never say that, and I'd be considered anti-Semitic. And you know what's funny about certain words? Certain words trigger people more than others, because we can't say anything that's considered anti-Semitic because it's, be quiet. But if it's racism, I'll get over it. Black racism, I'll get over it. You see? But everybody else is so sensitive. I can't talk about gay oppression. If I say anything about gay, a person who's homosexual, oh my God, how could you ever? And I would never. But if hypothetically I were to come out and say something against black, oh my God, it would be an uproar. We've got the LGBTQ community, okay? And when I say, if I were to say something quote unquote anti-Semitic, oh my God, we've got the Jewish community. Oh my God, if I say something about the Chinese, oh, we've got the Asian community. Every community has somebody to stand for them except the black man and woman and child. Okay, and when we did have one, you killed them because they come in spurts. You killed them. Sometimes two of them lived at a time, like Martin and Malcolm. They both was on this earth at the same time. 2 Christ consciousness in 2 bodies at one time. Can you imagine that? There was 2 Christ consciousness on the earth at one time, Martin and Malcolm, and you killed them both. And don't say you didn't. So, in retrospect, to just summarize what I'm saying is that there is a way to cure racism, okay? There is an indeed way to cure racism. And I'm not saying that everyone will take the steps to cure themselves and to cure racism in their communities. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that there is a cure available. So that's like saying if there's a sickness and then I say there's a cure available, it doesn't mean everybody's going to come and get the cure. Doesn't mean everybody's sick. Doesn't mean everybody wants to be cured. So some people may not come and get this cure. But I am saying there is a cure. So while there's years long of ancient debate, I, along with the Most High and my fellow brothers and sisters who've collaborated knowingly or unknowingly to fix this situation, have finally come to a solution. The cure is to discuss it. Really discuss it. Really. We have to bring the pictures out. We have to bring the evidence out. We have to rightfully speak about it. There needs to be accountability. It needs to be a round table. No one's at the head of this table. It's a round table, just like the knights back in the day who sat amongst each other with respect. And although they had nobility within themselves, they knew how to embrace the righteousness in their fellow man. So King Arthur sat at the round table, although he knew he was King Arthur. He respected his fellow man, and he didn't look at himself above him. So we sit at this round table, white man and woman, and we discuss, and I say white because that is what you refer to yourself as. This is not what I view you as, or this is not what I feel you should call yourself, but that's another discussion. But to the so-called white man and woman, I'm extending my hand as a righteous man to help cure racism if you would really like to. But we have to sit at the round table, and we have to make real solutions and take real accountability. So with that being said, I love you very much, and vibrate higher.